Hello, and welcome to our video here. I'm going to be talking about basically our group called the International Hapkido Group and Hapkido in general. And during this time of crisis with this coronavirus, I want to talk about a few things here. First of all, who am I? Everybody, you have a lot of guys floating around trading off certificates, Hall of Fames, plaques. To me, it's kind of like trading baseball cards. It's not real martial arts. Martial arts has kind of went downhill in some aspects. MMA has got really big. I've been in martial arts since 1964, and I've been involved in Hapkido since 1967. Uh, Dan Pinkowski here. I've got schools now in Moscow, Cairns, Australia, uh, Beijing, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and I'm working with a group of European people, and we have a group here in the Chicagoland area. But let me give you a little bit of background about myself because people say, "Why should I listen to you?" Where's your Hapkido background, and a little bit about what we're going to do with Hapkido. Um, Everybody knows, I've been doing different martial arts. You talk to these guys, oh, I'm eighth degree in this and ninth degree in that. And you ask them about judo, and they're, oh, I'm a first degree black belt in judo, or I'm a second degree black belt in judo, but I'm ninth degree in this and 10th degree in that. But when it comes to judo, they're not, okay? Because judo has a standard that you have to abide by to get a black belt in judo. If you're a first degree black belt in judo, you're a first degree black belt in judo. You can go anywhere around and you can see there's a kind of a level of proficiency with the United States Judo Association. So, what we're doing here, and let me give you a little background about myself and what's going on and what we plan on doing. We had back in the 90s, we had called the Midwest Hapkido Group, okay? And this was a group that was formed in the Chicagoland area, and we worked with Kwang Sik Myung, who's with the World Hapkido Federation. But prior to that, my Hapkido background comes from there was a gentleman who was in the military police that was stationed in Korea, and he came back as a local community law enforcement officer in Portage, Indiana, and he had been doing Hapkido in Korea when he was stationed there. So he did a program Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 9 p.m., and it was mainly for only adults, but he accepted me and a few other kids in. We were in sixth grade at the time, but we had to keep up. And he was actually kind of like a drill instructor. And we stuck with that for 3 or 4 years. And then my father got transferred down to Edwardsville, Illinois when I was a sophomore in high school. And when I was down there, I didn't know anybody, didn't know what to do. And I got involved with some judo people and did judo when I was down in that area. And then my senior year, I came back to Northwest Indiana and continued on with some Taekwondo training and got ranked with that. Then I started working in a mill, and as soon as I had the money up, at age 18, I went to Chicago to look for a really good hardcore martial arts school. And there was a gentleman named Kwang Sik Myung. And no, Kwang Sik Hyun, not Myung, Hyun. And his style was Han Pul. And he came in from one of the universities in Korea. And he was hired in by Sheriff Richard Elrod to run the Cook County Sheriff's Department correctional and training, tactical to training department for that law enforcement agency in Cook County, Illinois. Um, at that time, I started training real hard. I was working in the mill. If I wasn't working in the mill, I was at the Hapkido school. And at that time, there was no kids involved, period. You had to be 18 years old or you didn't come to the class. It was really hardcore. They didn't have all these belts, and we didn't have to test for them. And we had a white, yellow, blue, brown, black. That was it. And we tied them a little different. We tied them on the side, kind of like a loop, like a sash. In fact, if you look up Hanpul on YouTube, you see how they tie their belt. Not very many people know this art. So trained there real hard. Got up to fourth degree black belt. A lot of the people there were with the law enforcement. One of my training partners, and still is my training partner, is Jim Morowski, and he is retired from the Chicago Police Academy as the tactical defense instructor for knife, handgun, and all tactical defense. He's trained thousands of police officers in Chicago. In fact, they still run a program called the Chicago Police Judo Club. And we'll get into that a little bit about how this is all going to tie into this group that we're doing. So we trained real hard. I drove back and forth from Northwest Indiana to Chicago 6 and 7 days a week. And in fact, they wrote another article about me, this nutty young guy that, drives 60 miles one way, back and forth 5 days a week. And he's been doing this for 7 years to train Hapkido. So I got a few newspaper articles out of that. And back in the 80s, we decided to open up a school here in Indiana, and it went along for a while. And at that time, things weren't doing too good with the economy, and I closed down the school. I went in the military as an older person. I was, I think, 27 years old. And my deal was I was going to get into special forces, so I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, to do advanced medical training there. And prior to that, I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I was where I did my basic training, airborne training there. I was with the airborne unit. And then as we were at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, they had the ABC, American, British, and Canadian Forces. And this is when the AIDS was just in it starting out. And they had a lot of generals there, and I was driving them around. And they gave us a bonus of taking us out water skiing. And at that time, I cracked my neck, and then I was discharged after 9 months in the military. Came back to Chicago, got a job there, but was basically training at the school all the time. Uh, Instead of, it was a job on the north side of Chicago, and I was living in Northwest Indiana. And instead of driving back and forth every day, I stayed at the school. They had showers there. So on a Monday, I would go to work. Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, I trained at the school. They had an early morning class, and I did that. So I was actually did that for a year and continued to do that. And then basically in 1989, came back here, opened up a school, started training. But prior to that, Kwang Sik-hyun had been bringing in individuals from Korea, from Yongin University, and different people to immigrate here to be instructors at his school. Now, there was about, I'd say 15 or 20 of us that were his really hardcore original students. Once he brought these individuals from Korea, he no longer taught. He just told them what to teach, and they would go out and teach. And one of the guys that he brought in was Master Yu, and he was a personal student of Insan Sa, and he did Kuksu, which was a little different from the Hanpul that we did. And during that time, he accumulated a lot of students that were following him. And I really, at that time, I was running a program here in Indiana, and I wasn't involved in the late 80s, early 90s with that so much. I'd go up there to Chicago, but what had happened is Mr. Yu had broken away from Mr. Hyun and took about 190 students. And so it was really bad off. And some of the students were asking me, are you going to follow Mr. Yu or are you going to follow Mr. Hyun? And at that time, I didn't want to get involved in the two. If I followed Mr. Yu, then I'd get all kinds of problems from half the students there that stayed with Hyun. And if I stayed with Hyun, then I'd get in problem with the other one. So I gave a phone call to Kwang Sik Myung, who's the president of the World Hapkido Federation. And I explained the situation. And he actually called up Mr. Hyun and agreed, and we said, hey, he wants to bring me in and do some training. And I said, okay, great. So we formed the Midwest Hapkido group. And this was done during the 90s. And what we would do is I would bring in Master Myung for a time. I would pay for the hotel. I would pay for the airline flight. I would pick him up at the airport. I would arrange the dinner, and we would have a 2-day workshop, which we did at Horner Park in Chicago. And we wanted to do this more often than not. And because it's a lot of hassle here, there's a lot of work involved. We had 8 or 9 schools that were a hardcore with this group. So what we would do is we would pass it off. Master Myung would come in every other month. He'd fly in from the Los Angeles area into Chicago. But what we did is I would collect the money, keep the money, do all the expenses, and then I would pass it off to another individual. I would pass it up to Joe Conley or another individual that was with our group. And then their responsibility was to pick up Master Myung and do the same thing I did, and they would keep all the money. So we would pass this around the school owners, so we'd give them all a benefit of sharing in the profit, and then that would also encourage them to bring all their students to this event. This went on really well. We had fairly large groups. We had close to 20 different schools that attended, and it was going over really well. But at that time, Master Myung, he had a problem with diabetes, and his health was getting weaker and weaker, and he quit coming out and couldn't do this anymore. So, because I was originally with the Korean Keto Association, and one of my former students or classmates invited me to, in the year 2000, to come in to work with Insan Sa. And I said, okay, since he was the president of the Korean Keto Association, we went ahead and did that. And I brought him in twice, no, 3 times. We brought him in twice to Chicago and once to Maryville, Indiana. And we held some pretty good seminars with him there. And this went over really well. And then back in 2004, late 2004, 2005, I had to go down to Florida to deal with a family issue. And then right after that, I left to go to Beijing, China. And I just recently came back in September of 2019 is when I came back. Uh, During that time, we've set up a school in Moscow, Beijing. Got involved with the Wushu Institute. I'm registered with them. We were taking all the celebrities to the Shaolin Temple. And we would have somebody like Cynthia Rothrock or Eric Lee or all of these people. They would bring their followers, and they would get X amount of money for each person that would come. And we did this for quite some time. Don Wilson was there in Beijing with me, Cynthia, Eric Lee, Diana Inosanto, Ron Balicki, Dave Garrison. There's quite a few others that came too. And this went around for some time, and we did this. It was pretty successful. Prior to that, too, we also did acupuncture tours in the late 90s to China. I'm also a certified acupuncturist. That was part of Hapkido that has been and it's been kind of dwindled away. Hapkido was a kind of a high prestigious art, and during the years, I've noticed it degraded. Everybody wants to get a first degree black belt real quick, and they want to water it down, and they're trying to make money on it, and it really was taken down. I don't think that Hapkido is as prestigious as it was in the late 60s or all through the 70s or early 80s. It wasn't until the late 80s where a lot of these people, and I'm not going to name names, came in and, just started handing out certificates for money. You come to my seminar and you'll get an next degree black belt and join my organization. Okay. That really turned my stomach, to say, hey, it took me 4 years to get my next degree, and I was working 4 or 5 days a week, and this guy is going to offer me a weekend seminar and promote me to the next Dan, and it was insulting to us real Hapkido people. Also, I want to point out there's a lot of people that say, oh, we teach Hapkido. Well, it's just like karate guys. Oh, we teach karate and we teach judo. Well, they have a couple judo techniques and they say it's judo. Same thing goes on. A lot of taekwondo and other arts say, oh, we do Hapkido, and they do two or three techniques. They don't have the basic foundation. They don't understand key breathing. They leave out a lot of the philosophy. They're in a sport minded philosophy, not a self defense philosophy. Um, and it just really weighted the art down. So, what I'm doing and what we're doing is we're reviving the Midwest Hapkido group, but we're calling it the International Hapkido group. Now, we're not a federation, we're not an association, we're a group of federations and a group of associations that all are dedicated to a high standard of Hapkido. Now, during this time, we've now put together a program for police instruction that we're going to have and certify people so they can do this. So, and that's done through the Chicago Police Academy and the Chicago Police Safety System with Jim Morowski. We're working on that as we speak. Um, Also, we have done something where with our group now, if you're a first degree black belt in Hapkido with a legitimate association. In other words, we want to track how many years you've been in the art and what degree you are and where is your family tree. And if you pass all that in your association, we've got several associations and federations that we already recognize. So if you come up with a first degree black belt in that, we have a gentleman that'll cross rank you because Hapkido comes from Daituru Aikijitsu, period. You know, I don't care about 5,000 years in the mountains of Korea. That ain't where it came from. It came from Daituru Aikijitsu, period. You know, and you can't argue the fact, you know. So because it's that and there's a lineage to that, the United States Judo Association will rank you as a first degree black belt in Hapkido. You will get a first degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. So we've got that set up. So we've got two things with our international Hapkido group. We've got a police training program, and we've got a cross ranking where you can get in with the United States Judo Association. We also have a judo program we're going to be bringing in with this because most of the original students of Hapkido were judokas, judo players. Okay, and they did a lot of self defense against judo and all of this other stuff. So we feel, you know, Hapkido. A lot of people think it's more of a kicking art. It is not. It was added. Okay, it is a throwing, locking, joint manipulation art at what its core was, and it's always has been. Okay, things have been added to it. So what we're going to do with this international Hapkido group, we've got, like I said, I've got a Moscow group, I've got a group in Bulgaria, Germany. We've got some other groups, one in France, um, Russia, Hong Kong, um, Shenzhen, and Beijing, and Cairns, Australia. So what we're doing is we're working with this to have an event here in Chicago. As soon as this virus is over, I'm going to get back into doing this. Where myself and several other black belts, we would once a month we would have a little group where everybody could meet and all the school owners could work together on a higher standard of Hapkido. And so that's one thing we're going to be doing. Also, I'm going to try to bring back a lot of the healing arts into the art because to know acupuncture and to know the meridians and to understand Chinese medicine and Oriental medicine, it is a plus you as a Hapkido practitioner because a lot of these points are very critical when you're doing joint locking. So we're going to get into that too. Uh, we have Joe Conley. He's with Kid Power, and it's kidpower.org. And he is here to help any of the other members. We're our international Hapkido group. There is no fee for doing this. Okay, I don't want you to pay, blah, blah. All we want to do is verify that you are a legitimate Hapkido person. You have a direct lineage to the family tree, and that we and the groups will help each other out to benefit each school member. We've already started this, and we've got a pretty good group. But like I'm getting in step, Joy Conley will help you out. Kid Power is a violence protection program for young kids, which is interaction with the parents. And it's not all martial arts, it's psychology, how to answer the door. What if a UPS guy knocks on the door, mom and dad's in the shower? You know, you get a phone call, you pick it up, how the kid answers it. And it's a communication relationship between the parent and the child. So this is a good program. This can be done at local community YMCA's, school organizations, and we're there to help you so that you can present this to people who may not be interested in martial arts, and they'll bring their kid there. And out of that, you might pick up some students, and you'll actually probably make a little bit of money for doing this too. So, this is one way that we want to help. Um, I am also going to be working on um, a self-defense program, I mean, excuse me, civil defense program here with our local police because I'm been an instructor for Northwest Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, and I still work very closely with Jimmy Morowski, who is the head of the Chicago Police Academy. So we're, with this time of crisis, we're thinking that Hapkidoists need to step up to the plate and take a more active role as we move down this road. We don't know what's down the road. It's kind of like a dark tunnel. We don't know if we're going to go to the dark side or the light side. Who knows, you know, but just want to be prepared and ready. Uh, we have right now probably about 30 schools. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a standard for Hapkido. We're going to have supplements from Huxilwan and Hanpul and all the other different flavors of Hapkido to be added on. But we're going to use one particular book and standard to get a first degree black belt in Hapkido. Now, I do have 3 domain names: KoreanHapkido.net, KoreanHapkido.org, and KoreanHapkido.info. Don't go to them yet. I just have the domain names. I got a lot of work to do on getting them up and running. Info will be basically a family tree, and we're going to get everybody that is part of this to be part of that family tree. Uh, Org is about the organization, and net will be where you can find a school and listing of the school, and the organization will have a place where you can get equipment or get books. And in fact, I talked to Grandmaster Myung's son, who's now running, who's in charge of the World Hapkido Federation. And what we've all done is we want to make a base standard. Now, a lot of Hapkido has different standards in that, but nobody has done anything like Grandmaster Kwangsik Myung. He's passed on now. He's been deceased here for some years. But during that time, I had a lot of chance to work with him really heavily for almost 9 years straight. And we talked to his son, and we've got a discount now on the books that can be purchased. And he has 5 of these books. And this way, you know, the students can get these books, and the school owners can basically get these wholesale if they get quantities of them. And the first one here is um, Korean Hapkido here, textbook 1. And this is for uh, white belt, yellow belt. These are techniques here, but we'll be able to get these books. These books retail for $39.95, and there'll be a discount to the school owners. And the students now can buy these. And this is a guidebook for what you have to get a first degree black belt in Hapkido. We're going to use this as a base. He has 5 of these books. All 1 through 5 will get you to first degree black belt. We're not saying that you can't add your Kuksulwan or your other stuff onto this. That's fine. We'll have supplements for that. Okay. But what I want to do is we want to make this a standard, because I had some people saying, "Oh, I want to get a first degree black belt." And they send me their information and give me a videotape, and they have 3 techniques on there. I go, well, "Where's the rest of your video?" He goes, "Oh, those are the techniques." I go, "No, no, you got to know a lot of information, and it's not just a couple joint locks." A lot of Taekwondo schools, "Oh, we teach Hapkido." They got 3 or 4 techniques. They don't have the kicking techniques down. We kick different in Taekwondo. And on the striking techniques, we strike different in Taekwondo. Okay, it is not the same, and it's not sport minded. So what I'm trying to do is trying to get a standard like judo does, so that you get a first degree black belt in Hapkido, and then actually our group will be recognizing people just to certify that your organization and your rank is legit. And what we're going to do is saying that we recognize you, that you are with X organization and you've been with that organization for how many years, and you are what level on the family tree. Okay, so that's important. And because you get a lot of these guys are so far away from the family tree, they're 7, 8, sometimes 11 generations away, or they're not even connected to it. So we're going to be having these books, and then what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be taking. Master Young had made some videotapes in the past, and they transposed them onto DVD. The quality is not really there. It's kind of poor. I'm not taking anything away from it. The techniques are good, but the resolution and that has all been degraded over the years. So what I'm going to be doing here in the upcoming weeks is we're going to start with book one, and I'm going to go through every technique here. In fact, we're going to work with some of the videos I'm going to have are with some of the other groups we have. In fact, I just got this today. This is one of the groups that we work with, and I just was sent this. And this is from the um, uh, Dragon Keto, a friend of mine who has a school in Illinois. He went to China with us, and this is Dragon Keto. He gave me this plaque. I just got it today, um, which is really nice and thoughtful. But we're going to be working on this, and also we're going to have a Hall of Fame, but it's not going to be like the other ones. We got Alan Goldberg's got one, and we got one with the Frank Sanchez, and all of these other ones. You could pick out 5 years in martial arts, dedicated to martial arts, best student of the year, teacher of the year, best kicker, best puncher, whatever you want to buy. Okay, we're not doing that. To get in our Hall of Fame, simple. 40 years, continuous training in Hapkido only, not judo, karate, 5 years of this or 5 years of that. 40 years continuous Hapkido, you get in a Hall of Fame. We buy your dinner, we give you your plaque, we don't charge you for the thing, and we're going to put this together. During that time, we're going to be having a Saturday and Sunday workshop to educate people. And I've got some big name people who are interested in working with us. I'm currently working with 5 different organizations in Korea. Okay. I was the one that was heading off Hapkido for China, you know. So you guys don't want to, there's a few people that like to badmouth me, and they're the ones that don't know nothing. I really am not interested in these people who are selling ranks and saying how great they are. I'm interested in education, and let's get on the mat and let's see what you know. Okay. I also work with the MMA of China. I am not going back to China. I'm back in Northwest Indiana. So our international Hapkido group is on Facebook. Try to link it up, join there. I'm going to be putting this video here up there, and I'm also going to be putting it on um, some of the other Hapkido pages so they can see. But we're going to be working really highly to a high level, acupuncture, police training, um, a set standard for what you need to have and know to get a first degree black belt. Because there's so many guys out there that, you know, they don't even know how to take a fall. And there's I'm a second degree black belt Hapkido, but you don't know how to take a fall right. Come on, that's what you got to know as a white belt. So let's you real Hapkido people are going to bind with me. The guys that are collecting certificates, you know who you are. You know, you're not going to like me. I don't care. I don't care. I'm here for the legitimacy of Hapkido, to have a core standard and to rebuild it again. Because there's been some people out there have been do nothing but shitting on Hapkido. Excuse my language, but be honest with you, they've hoarded out for trading baseball cards, getting certificates, getting plaques, and trying to make money. Okay, and that's not what it's about. Making money is having a group together that works with each other to help each other out. That's what Hapkido is about. Hop, together, working together in harmony, key, internal energy. Do, the method or the way. You know, I think everybody's forgot that. I don't know what the hell they're doing nowadays. So, so this is an introduction video to that International Hapkido Group. And yeah, it's going to be good. And we're going to have a lot of people coming on board. I got a big group in Moscow. I'm pretty much connected with all the Hapkido schools in Russia. Okay, I did that because I had a lot of Russian students that were training with me, and I had a couple of them that had trained martial arts that were in Shenzhen, and I got on a mat and threw them all over the place, and I'm now my students. So that's how you do it. And I have a pretty good group in Beijing. I'm not with the CCP, but I love the Chinese people, but I am definitely working to undermine the Chinese Communist Party. They're a bunch of BS. They're not good. So, yeah, come on board. Let's help each other out. Let's benefit from this. And once a year, we're going to start seeing a big event, Hall of Fame, meet with all these people. I want to get everybody who's got 40 years of Hapkido into this event eventually. And we're going to work on this one at a time. We have an old man here who's done some Hapkido judo. He's was a father of Korean martial arts in Chicago. Used to own Bear Brand. It's Master Shin. He's an eighth degree in judo, and he is almost 90 years old, and he's still out there teaching. So he's going to be one of them that we're going to be bringing in. Kwang Sik Hyun is still teaching. Well, he isn't teaching; he runs a school. He's in his he's in his late 70s now, almost 80 years old. All of these other people too. So this is what we're doing. Hope you like this video. Click and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more. I've been off of this for some time because I had to get out of Hong Kong. They had all the riots and the protests going on, and I came back here, then came back to Florida where we have our warehouse and got some things situated there, and then I came back here to Northwest Indiana to work with the my old students and with the police academies and do things because this is my home base. Plus, my son and daughter here are adults and they're grown up and they don't want to see their dad. So, my daughter's a school teacher, her husband's a principal of the school, and my son's an engineer. They're both in their late 30s. So, that's want to be with the family. But share and like. Um, look for more videos as we do this, and I'll be catching you on the flip side, and we'll see how this all turns out. I hope it's as successful as the Midwest Hapkido group that we had, and in fact, I'm looking for it to be much larger. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Okay, I'm going to be signing off here, and catch you on the flip side.